Welcome all to the monthly meeting again. We're in March. My goodness, how the year seems to be travelling. Here I'd like to welcome everybody here today, especially any of our newer members who might be just joining us for the first time or maybe a second time. Welcome aboard all. I'd also like to thank all the panellists who will be joining us tonight for our meeting. So we've got a lot going tonight. We've got a few videos and a presentation and a bit of an update on a few bits and pieces. So there's a lot happening, guys. So we'll move on. Certainly one of the things that we're still trying to work out logistically is the next, how we're going to go back and have our monthly meetings again, and are we going to have them at Mulgrave, because we're still restricted to a certain extent by numbers and logistics. So the executive, we're working through that, trying to come up with some arrangements and maybe trying to do a bit of a shanty, electronic and face-to-face, do a bit of both. I don't know, we're still working on that, folks. We'll come back to you with more feedback on weekend wraps, so just keep an eye out on that. Certainly there's been a lot of things happening, and I've noticed quite a number of people have either gone away on trips, or they're coming back from trips, or planning trips, and so it's great to hear. I mean, the last Labor Day weekend, I heard on the radio and from a number of people that it was just absolutely chockers, and a standing room in some places, and certainly it's indicative of the fact that people are choosing to holiday closer to home. So that directly impacts us as a club. We have also been having a bit of an influx of new members, and I dare suggest that a lot of that is due to the fact that people have changed their way of holidaying and looking at committing to a lifestyle now and those sorts of things. So certainly that's one of those COVID new normals that I think we're going to see and we're going to have to deal with. One of the things that obviously when you do go camping and go to sites, I mean, it's really important that the old motto of the site should be as good or better than it was when you went there to start with. That's the appropriate thing to do with camping. And if you see other people that aren't doing it right, you don't have to be the police. You can take the rego number and we can report them. And I think we're duty bound to do that, because otherwise people will bugger it up for us, and then, you know what, we'll lose the privilege. And in a lot of other states, they don't have the tracks available like we do, and they're restricted to public facilities, and we certainly don't want to do that. I remember, you know, when I just started being a member, just a little over 20 years ago, there was a rally in Dalesford, and we were with the horses and the shooters and the fishers and the rest of it. And, you know, I don't remember doing much rallying in the streets, but we certainly did that time. And the government did stand up and notice. And I think it was a good thing that we did that, because the tracks are still open today for us all to use. So obviously YARC is available, and that's a major asset to our club and to our newer members. Listening to the driver training team, they'll tell you how you can get involved in the YARC property and gain access and all of those sorts of things. But it's an asset for all of us. And don't forget, if you're going up there, the same thing applies. Leave it better than or just as good as you found it when you went there. We're very lucky to have that asset, and we're very unique as a club that, you know, our previous boards and membership saw fit to invest their time, energy and money into getting that property for us. And some 30, 40 years later, we're now benefiting from that previous foresight. Obviously, we're going to have a bit of an update later on the multi-purpose building and what's happening there. Don't forget that we're still looking for support if you think you can help out, whether it be sponsorship, fundraising or donation of materials or whatever. Please let the secretary know, just so that we've got you down. And watch out for some fundraising ideas and strategies that we will be coming forward with pretty soon. The executive also sought feedback from members in relation to rules, and all of that feedback has been gathered and has gone to the subcommittee for them to review, and the committee have still got to do that. And naturally, there'll be an extension process of coming back to the members and so on and so forth. Obviously, trips are very much back on the agenda, and I'd like to thank everybody, the trip leaders, for getting out there and running these trips and getting these sorts of things done. It's really important that when you do go away, that you plan carefully and make sure you take the right things with you, including a rubbish bag. Don't forget Cruisacana. It is on, and we'll hear from Forge a little later, no doubt, with a bit of an update on what's happening there. We certainly would like to see you involved in all these sorts of events, and that includes working bees up at Yark. I mean, these are, it sounds that word working bee isn't all just work. They do have happy hour, and a few of them, and a few meals as well. So that's always a good time. The Geelong branch recently had Camp Host, and I understand that went well and was very busy, and I'm pretty sure Alison will give us an update on that. And also they had their event down at Port Arlington on Saturday. I couldn't attend because my son's cricket final was on. So look, that's pretty much all that I've got to talk about right now, and we'll continue on through our meeting, and maybe I'll update on a few other things as we get there. We've got a guest speaker tonight, and it's James's own. So over to you, James.
Thank you. I'm just going to start off with a quick video. All right, hello everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Thank you. That was just a very quick introduction. It was actually some, Dad wants me to do a shout out. That was actually some photos and videos of some first aid courses running since back in 2016, 17. So it's just good to see how people are getting involved and, really taking an interest in first aid. So it's been amazing. Now, today, for those that don't know, my name's James. I have a business called Designer First Aid Solutions. I'm a full-time paramedic, and so some of you have met me in some of the first aid training. So I'm just going to go through a couple of key first aid injuries and illnesses that you might face in the outback, and just go through some common treatments. My dad is going to be my patient for tonight. He's going to sustain a range of injuries and illnesses, but I'm here to fix him. So we should be okay. So what we're going to start off by talking about today is some fractures. Now, throughout this PowerPoint, I've got a few little questions that I want you just to sort of have a bit of a think about as we go through, and then we'll basically give you the answers. So the question that I want to ask you to think about, and I'll give you the answer shortly, is what complications can occur from fractures? And that's, I guess, from a first aid perspective. So just have a quick think about it, and then I'll sort of talk to you about the answer shortly. Now, whenever it comes to managing fractures, the key is immobilization. And we basically want to be immobilizing the fracture above and below the injured site. So, for example, if we were to fracture our radius or our ulna, we'd be wanting to immobilize all the way from the wrist up and above, potentially up to the elbow. Now, it's quite, I guess, difficult to find something that always suits the particular fracture, especially if the bone is no longer straight. So that's why I recommend carrying a fracture splint. And I know a lot of you have got these now, which is a great little device that I can show you. It's actually something that can be molded. I'll hold it up nice and close to the screen. This one's seen better days, but that's what it looks like. It's got a piece of aluminium that runs on the inside with padding on either side. Now, what this actually allows you to do is mold it to the particular injury. Now, I like to mold it on myself before putting it on the patient, just so that I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the fracture. You then basically create a firm sort of splint that cannot be bent down. You can then place that on the patient's injury and you'll be bandaging that in place. The good thing about this is, say the fracture actually was deformed. So say that we had some deformity in the fracture, you can then actually use this to bend to that deformity. And again, and it's not impossible. I had one of these fractures just the other day. I had a patient that had something that looked quite like this. So you can basically mold the splint to suit the injury. So I'll demonstrate how to put it on. So my dad's first injury for today is a fractured radius. So once molding it, you can then basically place it on the patient's arm, and then just using a normal bandage, you can secure that in place. Okay, so secure that splint in place using a bandage, and then you can use your triangular bandage as a sling and just hold that in place. Keep the fingers out so you can check sensation and blood supply by squeezing and making sure the blood returns within less than 3 seconds. For a simple fracture, you can head off to your local GP for x-rays management. But if there's any altered sensation or if there's any lack of blood supply, that becomes an emergency and you'll need to definitely call an ambulance or get help more urgently for something like that. Now, these splints, they come like this in a little packet. The actual splint itself is 36 inches. So you can actually use it for example, to splint a leg or a whole arm, and you can cut it to size. You can even cut it as small as to splint a finger. So they come like that with a couple of bandages to be able to secure them in place. And that comes in the first aid kit, which we'll talk about shortly. So the answer to the question earlier that I asked, which it was about what complications can occur from fractures. Now, things we need to consider is if somebody fractures a bone in their body, what surrounding organs or tissues can be damaged? So, for example, a fractured rib could puncture a lung. For example, a fractured leg could potentially damage an artery. For a fractured vertebrae could damage the spinal cord. Things that you can notice is loss of blood supply or internal bleeding, etc. So whenever we're thinking fractures, we need to think about what other injuries could possibly have been sustained. So yeah, hopefully that's the sort of line of thought you're going down. All right, now the next thing that I would like to quickly talk to you about, pressure immobilization. Now, the first question I want you to ask yourselves is, how does venom travel through the body? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it, and then I'll give you the answer. If you're thinking circulatory system, then unfortunately you're wrong. If you're thinking nervous system, unfortunately you'd be wrong. It actually travels through the lymphatic system. Okay, so it travels through the lymphatic system. Now, lymphatic flow through the body actually occurs through muscle relaxation and contraction. So one of the most important things that you need to do for somebody who has been bitten by a snake is to actually make sure they stay really still. This is one of those injuries where someone needs to come to you. Help has to come to you. You cannot walk this patient. They need to have no muscle movement, no muscle relaxation and contraction. So really important that you call help early. This is something that, and snake bite is something that I would be activating an emergency response for if you don't have access to 000. Now, there are 4 animals in which we use this method of treatment for. All snakes, funnel web spiders, cone snails, and blue-ringed octopus. So they're the 4 animals we need to use what's called pressure bandaging and immobilization. Okay. Oh, I already gave you that answer. Okay, so what I'm going to quickly go through now is I'm going to demonstrate the treatment of any one of those 4 animals. What you will actually need is a heavy crepe bandage, or ideally a snake bite bandage. Now, these bandages have a couple of really key points that make them a lot better for management of a snake bite. First of all, when you pull the bandage to the right tension, you'll notice that it turns from rectangles to squares. So that means that you're now at the right tension. One of the biggest things that people make mistakes with is not having it firm enough or having it too tight. So this indicator just helps with applying it at the right tension. The other really good thing is that this bandage is over 10 meters long. If you were to use a standard bandage, you would be needing at least 2 to 3 for a leg. But with these, you will definitely not need more than 2, and majority of the time, you'll only need 1. Okay. So treatment-wise, first thing is, don't try to catch the snake and make sure that you are in a safe place. Step 2, keep the patient really still and provide your TLC. We want to keep their heart rate nice and low. Next thing is apply pressure immobilization while someone is sending for help. So I'll get my patient back here who's just been bitten by a snake. Now, you can all see that, okay. You are allowed to go over clothing. Okay, so if the patient's wearing pants, that's okay. You are allowed to go over clothing. First of all, start at the bite site. So for example, if the bite was here, you need to start your bandaging here. Now I'm making sure that the rectangles are turning into squares. If you've got a second person, you can always ask them to just lift the leg gently to avoid the patient from doing it themselves. Now, make your way down the leg. So from the bite site, make your way down the leg, including the foot in the bandaging. You're then going to make your way up the leg, and you actually got to keep going up the leg as high as you can go. So all the way up to the very top of the limb. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. If you didn't have enough bandage, you would then get another one and continue up as high as you can go. Mark the bite site with a texter, just so that when the patient arrives at hospital, they know where the bite site was. Check circulation to the foot, make sure that they've still got blood flowing to the toes. And then you want to apply an immobilization split. And that's where this comes in. You can just simply apply that down the side of the leg, and with your normal bandage, you can secure that in place. As I mentioned before, one of these is actually 36 inches, so it would be long enough to go all the way from the foot right up to the top. Okay. And then again, stay nice and still and wait for the ambulance service to arrive. If you have any questions, we'll have some question and answer time at the end. All right. So that's what the snake bite bandage looks like. And again, one of those are in the first aid kit. All right, so quickly talking about burns. First of all, I want to go through some different types of remedies that you might have attempted throughout your time, and some old wives' tales. Now, the first one is, can you put toothpaste on a burn? What do you reckon? Big no. Definitely can't put toothpaste. Can you put ice on a burn? No, you cannot put ice on a burn. The most important thing to start off by putting on a burn is water, okay? So water, and we'll get back to that very shortly. So water, sometimes access to water, I know can be difficult, especially when you're on a trip somewhere in the outback. But I'm sure you will always have access to a jerry can or something like that where you have some running water. It might be a matter of using some of the water you've got, placing the burn underneath, running the water on top, catching that water, and then continuously sort of recycling that water. You need to be running the burn underwater for at least 20 minutes. It's really important. That's going to stop the burning process. So 20 minutes is how long you need to run the burn underwater for. Now, you cannot put butter on a burn. So some people have suggested that to me before. You definitely cannot put butter on a burn. Now, once you've treated the burn, be mindful that there is the potential for the patient to go into shock. And this is something that should be in every first aid kit, and that's a shock blanket. So after you've treated the burn, you want to be applying a shock blanket to cover the patient and just manage them for shock. Now, when it comes to burn creams, again, you cannot put burn cream on a burn. What you can put, so after you've run the burn underwater for 20 minutes, you can put what's called a burn aid dressing. This is a burn aid kit, burn aid pack, which again is in the first aid kit. So burn aid gel, this is a hydrogel. So it hydrates the burn, it stops excessive fluid loss and helps soothe the burn. So it's a form of pain relief. This also comes in a non-stick dressing. This is a burn aid dressing, 10 by 10 centimeters, and you can apply that directly on the burn. If you're, for example, have no access to water at all, which is very unlikely, you can go straight to this dressing, but that's only as a last resort. So once you put this on the burn, you can then secure it in place just with a standard bandage. So this was the dressing, just in case you didn't see it. Burn aid dressing. Now, once you've run it underwater for 20 minutes, put this dressing on, and that can stay on for up to an hour. To then cover the burn to prevent infection and fluid loss, you can actually cover it with some Glad wrap. Okay. Glad wrap is the sort of the best dressing to stop infection and to prevent fluid loss. So that was just a couple of the modules that can be found in the Outback First Aid Kit. So in summary, you got your fracture module, your burn module, a major bleeding module with some heavy crate bandages and bleeding dressings, a minor bleeding module. So this is for the treatment of abrasions and minor lacerations. An eye module for irrigation of eyes and some eye pads, as well as the snake bite kit, snake bite bandage. So these are this particular first aid kit is designed to be able to easily access the equipment that you need. So basically, you know, depending on the injury, you can just go and select that particular module, and that way you don't need to sit there working out what's in your first aid kit and what you're going to need to use. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down now. We're coming to the end of the session. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down now. This is what the first aid kit looks like if you are interested, if you do need one. It comes all nicely packed away in a first aid kit. And then if you do use any of the modules, you can then just easily replace them by getting in contact with me. The other thing, if you do like, feel free to head to my website. There's quite a number of articles that I've written about different things, about different injuries and illnesses. Also, the standard approach, for those of you that know, I do update that regularly. So if you would like to go and have a look at the most up-to-date standard approach, it's there. as well as some topics about major bleeding, etc. And the website, if you do want to go there, is this one here, www.dfas.com.au. And if you have any questions or if you want to get in contact with me to ask me anything about first aid, feel free to contact me on my details here. All right, I'll just see if there's any questions. There's a question here. Can you soak a burn rather than have it under running water? Okay, good question. The only concern I have about having a burn sitting in still water is that the water will warm up and then it doesn't really have the benefit of cool running water. So sitting your hand in water for a period of time, the water will heat up, especially over 20 minutes. So ideally we want it to be running, and that might just be a matter of pouring the water from one container onto another and vice versa, and continuously doing it that way, just to try and keep the water cool. Is this kit suitable for an office? This kit is suitable for any sort of industry, but I guess the key things in this kit is that it has some key equipment that helps you manage injuries in the outback. So if you were, in a local area and you needed to manage a fracture, an ambulance will probably be knocking on your door before you even get the splint out. So yes, absolutely. But this one is more specifically for, if you're going away and you need treatment in the outback.
James, I've got one on Facebook from John Riley. James, for the snake bite, after bandage, would you lay the patient down or sit them up?
Yeah, so, if you think about it, any sort of movement is going to cause muscle relaxation and contraction. So just sitting up uses so many muscles in our body. So we need the patient to lie down, lie still, and no movement whatsoever. So yeah, lying down is ideal. And that's also why we splint. Like I showed before, once you've splintered, you can even go as far as tying both legs together with some triangular bandages. That then provides even more splinting as well.
James, there's another question there. With pressure bandage, do you have to release after a certain time? Michael Burke will ask that question.
If you're referring to pressure bandage for the treatment of the snake bite, once it's on, it has to stay on. It's so important that that bandage does not come off. Your question might be in regards to the risk of circulation and loss of circulation. That bandage, when it's applied, will not stop circulation. It's not tight enough to stop circulation. So just remember, we're wanting to stop lymphatic flow, not circulation. So that bandage will stay on for as many hours as it needs to until that person is in hospital and receives the antivenom. I just saw one question just pop up here, Ian. It's written, putting a burn in river water, any risk of infection from contamination? The answer, in short, is yes, there is a potential for infection, but I guess you've got to weigh up the benefit versus the risk. If that's your only access to water and this person has a significant burn, well, the benefit outweighs the risk. I guess on my website, I've written an article about burns. I encourage you to go and have a bit of a read. It highlights what burns are classified as severe burns. And if the patient does meet any of those criteria, then I would be calling 000 or activating an emergency response. So please feel free, head to my website, find the article about burns, have a read, and let me know if you have any questions.
And how often should people go for a bit of a refresher, etc.? Yeah,
good question. Look, ultimately, to remain current and meet legislative requirements for those that work in as a first aid officer in a workplace or something along those lines, first aid training needs to be done every 3 years, so the full course every 3 years, and then CPR refresher every 12 months. If you wish to come and just do the CPR refresher, then you can. It'll just be the first 3 hours of day number 1, and you'll be completing your CPR refresher. Previously, I have come on and spoken about CPR and defibrillation and the importance of that. I did a talk just a few months ago, and you might remember how I mentioned that survival rates have dramatically decreased over the last 12 to 18 months. I really encourage you to get on top of your CPR, make sure you practice, get on top of your defibrillation, familiarise yourselves with the one up at YARC, because the key to survival from a cardiac arrest is first aider response. So please definitely stay on top of your CPR practice.
But I do have one final question that was given to me, was in relation to children. At what age is a first aid course appropriate at what age should children be involved of members?
Great question. I mean, I did my first aid course when I was 14 years old, 14 or 15. So I think I was doomed from the start. This was going to be my career for life. So I think it's probably slightly dependent on how you feel that child would go. It is a lot of information to take in a day. But I mean, my first time I was probably 14, 15, and I've been in St. John Ambulance as a volunteer since I was 15 years old as well. So I don't think it's ever too early to start, but just be mindful, a full day first aid, it's very involved, a lot of learning, etc. I've just had a question. Someone's asked about the first aid kit. So yes, online it is $249. This is a TLC only price. So if you are interested, you'll need to get in contact with me so we can put it through that way as opposed to going through the website.
Wow, what a deal.
I want everyone to have, access to first aid equipment. So, so whatever I need to do to get that, that's ideal.
Thank you, James. If there's any other questions, we'll direct them your way. As usual, presentations first class, mate. Thank you. It's so very important for us to know about burns, fractures, snake bites, etc. I mean, these are the things that we're going to confront in the real life out there in our day-to-day travels. We hope they don't happen, but if they do, it's better to be prepared, isn't it? We've now got a video tonight of the East Gippsland Explorer run that was run by Michael Schutke on the Australia Day weekend. So let's let it roll. thank you very much for that. Always lovely to see Gippsland. I mean, it's such a large area, and it can be so different. It can go from that extreme wet to that extreme dry. It's pretty rare you see it in between, but I was just looking at that video then. So it's Australia Day weekend, so it's a couple of months ago or month and a bit ago. And so I noticed that there was a bit of greenery around, but it was still pretty dusty. So lovely neck of the woods to certainly go down and see. We'll go through to our subcommittee reports now, and we've got a variety of people that will be joining us. And first of all, we've got driver training, Chris Treble. Over to you, Chris. Welcome aboard tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks very much. Welcome to everyone. Hope everyone's well. We had a good practical session up at Yark on the 27th and the 28th of Feb. It's well attended. We had 13. We had a couple of dropouts, but you've got to expect that with the way life is at the moment. But everyone that was up there had a great time. So on behalf of the club, I'd just like to welcome the following members that have now successfully completed their driver training course. So we've got Andrew and Elizabeth Thompson, Hank Stewenger, Dan and Michelle Loberman, Tony and Jenny Garcia, Morton Chen and Estelle Fleming, Harry and Marge Lakey, and Matthew and Victoria Hillbridge. So they've all completed their necessary requirements. We're heading back up at the same dates, the 27th and 28th of March, for the next event on the weekend. We're still battling with trying to catch up on numbers. We've got some plans in place that we're going to try and possibly squeeze some extras in if we can. We're looking at we've actually at the moment we've got the next couple of months are totally full as well. Taking bookings for June at the moment, so we're trying to catch up. As long as people can keep with the momentum with it and attend on the month that we've got allocated, everything should be fine, so fingers crossed. Also working with both Laurie and Rob in relation to, I'm trying to work out how we can actually get this online so that people can come in online and book in their preferred month rather than me doing the chasing about finding out when people would like to attend. So treat it a little bit like a trip, how you would book in for a trip. So just working through those various machinations at the moment and how I can get some reports out that we're required to send off to Four Wheel Drive Victoria. So it's looking promising. So fingers crossed. And hopefully, as far as I'm concerned, the sooner I can move this process across to that medium, the better off I think I'm going to be with trying to manage it at all at the moment. There's a few members still sitting out, and new members keep coming in on the top of it as well. So it's all good, but we'll just try and keep up as best as I can with the team. The team are doing a fantastic job. Thanks to all the members of the team. They're really putting in and helping out, and we're looking forward to a fantastic weekend again at the end of March. And that's basically it. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Chris, and an excellent presentation. So with that, we'll move over. You would have heard last month we were talking about the Land Cruiser 70th anniversary, and tonight Michael Martin's not able to join us, but John Mills is. So welcome aboard, John. You're going to give us a bit of an update.
Hi, yes, I am. The Land Cruiser 70th birthday muster is off and running. So we've had a lot of people, over 25 people or families show interest in going on the muster. Laurie tells me that the application form to formally apply will be on the web page tomorrow. So those that have shown interest, please log in and book in. You will be required to pay a $150 deposit against this. This is to cover the deposits that we need to pay for your campsites and for your dinner, and then you will receive an invoice after that for the balance. Totally, we're looking at somewhere over about $350, and that's your nights at Broken Hill at the resort there, plus going to Aldi for 2 nights. So we look forward to having you all on. So there's over 25 already booked in, and we have got a limit. The other states now have put a limit on Victoria because once more we're out of the blocks and we are booking people in. The other states still are a little bit tardy, but they have asked us to leave them enough room so they can get some members there as well. So make sure you're booking quickly, and I'd like to see you there. Okay, I think that's me.
Thank you, John. And no doubt, if there's any questions, if you can put those up on chat or Q&A, and we'll get those through to John, and he can give you some update. We'll move on now to the next item, which is the multi-purpose building, and a bit of an update on that. Eric, over to you. Welcome aboard tonight.
Thank you, Ian. Good evening, everybody. The MPB, at the moment, we're at a situation where our building permit is ready to be issued. The shed is actually in manufacture at the moment, and by all accounts will be delivered to Yark somewhere between the end of the month and possibly the first week of April. And but at the end of the month looks like it's ready for delivery. So we'll need to coordinate with Yark management to ensure we've got a proper place set aside for it. We don't have any other issues. Everything seems to be going along all right. I'm pretty happy with the way things are going. The team is working well. So that's about it really from me. Ian, back to you.
With that, we'll move over to education report. And John, you're going to have to swap seats with Liz. And Liz will join us. So over to you, Liz. Welcome aboard. Thanks very much for everything you do.
Thank you, Ian. Good evening, everybody. Lovely to see James Azam on there tonight. I was going to give him a big thank you tonight anyway. He did a course for TLC in February, first aid and a CPR one, which was well taken up, and apparently they had a good time and really enjoyed it. Now, as education, usually I get in touch with James and we organise every year a club one. So probably the early next year we'll be sorting out some dates with him again. So look out for that later on if you're not able to do one with him in the meantime. Also, a huge thank you to Ingrid and Les that did the photography for beginners course at the weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. She only had 8 people do it, particularly because she wanted to have a lot more one-on-one with everybody. And I think anybody you talked to who did the course were absolutely wrapped in the time that they gave and the passion that they conveyed to everybody. So we will be getting them again at some stage, probably again next year. So look out for that one if you want to do that. The next thing on our list is the chainsaw course. Unfortunately, at the moment it is fully booked, but if I have another cancellation, get on the waiting list and I'll endeavour to get in touch with you as early as possible to fill the space. All the details, of course, for that are on the website. That's 14th, 15th, 16th of May. Wheel bearing course, 5th, 6th of June. I'm sorry, again, it's fully booked. They're very popular at the moment because we haven't done anything for a while. So people are grabbing the chance to get onto all the courses, but get on the wait list. Now, the other thing we have is the 4-wheel drive maintenance course on the 17th and 18th of July. So you're planning to venture into the Australian outback. So you need to ask yourself, is my 4-wheel drive prepared and up to the trip it is about to undertake? No, you say? Do I know what regular checks are required whilst travelling? No, you say? Well, this course is for you. Again, unfortunately, it's been taken up very quickly and it's full at the moment. But again, put your name on the waiting list because no doubt there will be a cancellation at some stage and I will get in touch with whoever was booked onto the waiting list first. Okay, that's it for me. So thank you very much, Ian. Handing over.
Thank you very much, Liz. And as usual, fabulous report and great to see those courses being run. So with that, we're going to move over to Brian Stewart, who's going to talk about the maintenance construction weekends. And over to you.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's been a busy night so far. First up, I'd like to thank Michael for pointing out the fact that we call it the Maintenance and Construction Weekend. There's a lot of work to be done on that to get that through to everybody so that it is in all the paperwork that goes out and on the website. They've still got working bee stuff on there. Anyway, there's a report on the February Maintenance and Construction Weekend is in the magazine. And things are moving along quite well for our next weekend, which is the March Maintenance and Construction Weekend. And there are 7 newer members who have booked in for that weekend, as well as my regular dedicated team who just love going up there. So if you haven't booked in yet, you better do so. And there's also a presentation tonight of some photos and that were taken on the January and the February maintenance weekends. So Laurie's going to sort of run that, and that'll be me for the night. So looking forward to seeing you up at Yark at the weekend. Make sure you're booked in. Come up there, and we don't have limits on that either. So you're booked in, you come. All right. See you there. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Laurie.
thank you so much, Brian, and your crew for a fabulous job you're doing up there. And I'm sure on behalf of the members, I say thank you.
Yep,
All
no,
right,
they're
so
very keen, a very keen bunch of guys and girls.
excellent. Well done all. All right, we'll move on with that. And the next one on the agenda is Geelong. We've got Alison Williams, who's the president of Geelong, joining us tonight. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. We've had a busy month. The March meeting, we discussed the proposed model rules and wrote a response, which is now up on the website. So please have a look and see what we think. Camp host at Dando's was really well attended. It was a great weekend. Very big in the crowd this year. We noticed a lot of newer sort of campers with new tents and two-wheel drive vehicles rather than four-wheel drive vehicles. It was really very full campsite. We had a great chat with the Dwelp staff that they came around and they were putting out campfires on the Sunday morning. I was a bit surprised. I thought there was the sort of the police riot squad. They're all dressed in blue with their vests on and their pockets with their spray and their batons, and their protective gear was quite amazing. And they said they wear that 24 hours when they're on the weekends. They tend to work overnight and sort of go without sleep for the day and just patrol the local campsites with the local police. They had to come out at 1 o'clock because we had a bit of a rowdy bunch with a nice big stereo making lots of noise, but they were pretty happy. Just a couple of campsites, of course, that were left. People just walk away with great big chunks of wood in them and leave them at the Stevenson's Fall site, and just one that they'd just discovered at Dando's over in the corner. We had a lovely weekend, social this last weekend at Port Arlington. Great weather, beautiful day on the beach. Ended up a little bit sunburned actually. It was pretty cold to start with, but it was a beautiful day. Lots of dogs and paddling in the water. It's a beautiful spot. We've got some great guest speakers coming up over the next few months. Excuse my dogs. We've got Parks Vic team leader coming. He's the team leader from Geelong all the way across to the border. And next month we've got a still demonstration with all the still battery gear that's new out now. And next month we've got multi-drive technologies. They're a Geelong firm and they'll be coming along to show us what they do. They do a lot of work on 70 series and GVMs. That's us. Keep an eye out and you're welcome to come to any of our meetings. We're not far down the road. Thanks, Ian.
Alison, if you got a moment, I just wondered if you could let everybody know what running Camp Host is all about, like just when you did it down at Dando's, what sort of is involved? What needs to be done for us in order to do that?
You log on, have a chat to Four Drive Victoria and register your interest, and they'll have lots of sites around the state that need help with Camp Host. I've got something to throw.
Chuck them a treat.
Anyway, there's someone out front. And look, Camp Host is really a friendly person to be the first point of contact and be there to offer a friendly sort of advice if there's something happening. Let them know about some tracks or what the tourist info is about. We also have surveys. We walk around and have a chat to people in their campsites and give them the 4 Drive Club survey. And the survey asks, what more would you like from Dwelp or parks? Most people have put on the surveys that they would like toilets and showers. And actually, Dando's is closed this week for the next few months. They're totally renovating the campsite, putting in more toilets. So hopefully the last year's surveys worked. And the other popular one was to clear out the swimming pool, the swimming hole, which is at the end of the campsite, because the Australia Day weekend, a great big tree fell in it. And it's a lovely swimming hole there. So venture down and camp, but it'd be great to see the club do some more Camp Host. The club actually will be paid $250 from Four Drive Victoria. So, maybe the next long weekend we could have 3 or 4 sites around Victoria where, a group of friends just go down as club members and host the Camp Host. It's really easy and it's lovely talking to people that most people are, really friendly and receptive. So
it's a great opportunity for the members to catch up.
Had a few people that were interested in the club. So it is actually a really good way to advertise our club, to walk around and tell people what you do And there's a bit of campfire cooking. It was just lovely with the children who are very experienced campers. You know, Viv did some lovely bubble blowing for the children, and it was just a fun weekend.
I'd have to get her talking about that. So, thanks, Alison, and we'll move on. All right, so we'll now go over to our trip convener, Viv Gardner. Hey, Viv, you're going to talk about what's this about balloons?
Bubbles.
Bubbles. Okay.
Yeah. The boys had some bubble liquid, and I was the one blowing the bubbles. Yeah, good little boys. They had a great time. Well, I just want to talk about our trips. Unfortunately, all the trips on the website are full. I'd like to also welcome all the new members that have done their DA, and hopefully some of our trip leaders will be putting some trips up on the website soon to get you out and about so you can practice all the great things that our fantastic DA team teach you. And that's all I've got to say.
So thanks very, very much, Viv. And
No worries.
we'll look forward to seeing some more trips and talking again next month. All right, so we'll continue on now.
I think Alison would like to say something. Yeah.
Yes, Alison.
Thank you. Could I just mention that we have the Kids' Day at Yark in the September school holidays, which is the maintenance construction weekend.
Yep.
It's the third weekend in September, and it's up on the website now. So all children are welcome. Liz is going to join us and take the children on the Emu Egg Walk. We've got a few surprises coming that'll be confirmed a bit closer to the date, but it's a great weekend. We had to cancel last year, but hopefully this year will be bigger and better with some great activities for the children.
Fabulous. Go over to our webmaster, Laurie. Laurie, can you also give us a bit of an update on our participation on Facebook and on Zoom tonight, please?
Numbers tonight, we've got 29 over. We had 29 over on Facebook and 32 here, so that's 62 plus partners. So we're probably about 110 tonight. That's my guesstimate where we're at. So probably a little bit down on last month, but it is a good meeting. So hopefully we get more next month. Just a couple of things. When I do a weekend wrap and I have a link that's wrong, like there was this month, I got advised that the minutes link was actually last month's minutes rather than the January minutes rather than the February minutes. You can always go to the website, go to TLCCV News, and then click on Weekend Wrap. I always put the latest Weekend Wrap up there, so when people tell me there's an error, that's where I fix the error. I'm not going to be sitting out 600 or 700 emails again. It's just filling up your inbox, and it's easier for you to realise if there's an error. Go and have a look there. You can read it there and you can get the information correct. So that's the important bit for Weekend Wrap. All the feedback went up on the website yesterday. It was a big task getting it all done, and it's all up there now. So hopefully members can have time to read that. You've got to go to either the link in Weekend Wrap, or you can once again go to the website. You've got to be logged in and go to member info and then click on the feedback tab. And you then need to click on the red banner that says feedback on the proposed rules. That's where all the feedback is on one page, so you can access it. There's a lot of members, a lot of comments in there. Get a cup of coffee and sit down and go through slowly, because everyone's got a different point of view and interesting comments. So the committee is going to have some interesting times ahead going through all that, and I wish them luck. That's about it from me. Back to you, Ian.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you for giving us an update of where the feedback is. So don't forget, that's the rule feedback information. And so we've, as requested by the members, we said we'd put it up, and so it's up on the website. I'd like to thank Rob, Sandra and Laurie for all coordinating and organising that and bringing it all together. And I know Laurie and Rob particularly have spent a lot of time and effort trying to get it all together and adjust it and do whatever is necessary. So really appreciated your efforts, folks. We'll move on. We've got a bit of a video next. Want to go to Wonnangatta, run by Steve and Sue Smith. This is January 21 trip. And over to the video. What a great place to go, Wanangana, and what a great video. We are so lucky to have these fabulous presentations and videos put together by our members. Thank you very much, and well done, Sue and Steve, for running that trip and getting members out there. Beautiful place, beautiful neck of the woods of Wanangana, and definitely a place to go if you haven't been. So with that, we'll move over to Cruisacana, and we've got you, Forge, tonight joining us. George, Forge Villela, over to you, and welcome aboard tonight.
Thanks for that, Ian. Much appreciated. Look, from a Cruisacana perspective, I did say last year that we would come back to the group and talked about whether we were able to run this competition this year. Look, the restrictions in Victoria are such that we were able to have 100 people outdoors in a gathering, and so that suggests to us that we can run the event. We do need to think about how we manage people inside the Hilton, and so that's something that the committee will work through how we do that. This month we've got a trip up to Yark to do some maintenance around the tracks, just to clear away some of the scrub that's around there. And then we will be testing the tracks based on the new rules that we've devised. And so that's going to be an exciting time for us as the committee, and maybe some bystanders there at the weekend that we're up there. We do have a busy month coming up to us, so we've got some. We're reaching out to sponsors in a much more meaningful way, where we'll be talking to other four-wheel drive clubs to attract them to the competition, as well as to previous year's competitors as well. We will be talking to people around. First, we'll be talking to the lead marshals of the different competitions and talking to them, and then we'll be looking for volunteers to help us with the event. So we're starting to ramp up those activities. So you'll see more from us as a committee, doing more work around getting prepared for this event. It's exciting times. Laurie, I believe we've got a video, one of the many that we've been showing teams. So over to you, Laurie.
the stuff I've seen with the
Well, that was a wonderful video. It's just a lot of great footage there. I think Steve did that one this time, so that was pretty good. Back to yourself, Ian. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Forge. It's fabulous to watch those videos, and you know, I think some of you would have just seen from 2013 there the tyre road, which we don't have anymore, but I remember that was the first one that claimed a mud flap on my car, which I thought the driver training team at the time had a great fun with when I was up there. But anyway, but we must remind people it's the thinking person's event, isn't it, Forge?
That's right. It's not about how fast you go or you know, how tricked up your car is. It's about skills, taking your time, being patient, and getting through the events. And so that's the way they're designed. That's the way the rules are created. And so there'll be some changes in the way that we do things, but it's all about it's a skills-based event, and it really interesting to see. I was glad to see that 80 series got out of that mud hole. So that was good to see that.
Yeah, well, I noticed that somebody's cheekily put a video, a comment up that says he's stalling in a sand trap, a Nissan thing. Well, I can assure you it isn't. I've seen it many times with many different brands of cars, haven't we, Forge? All right, well, fabulous. And just
people can.
You want to remind us again of the dates, Forge?
The dates are October, so October the 24th, 25th, and I think 26th. That's the last weekend in October, and that's when we'll hold the event.
And when
the event is held on the Saturday.
And when will registrations open, Forge?
It'll open up in June.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Get in there. Forge needs some help. You'll have a good time while you're at it, and you get a good feed at the end if you stay. So well done, and thanks, Forge, for your delivery tonight in the video.
So just before I go, I just
Yes.
the correction on the dates. It's the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of October.
There you go.
So
well done.
just to correct it for everyone.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
I'm glad
Bye-bye.
to hear that, and I'm sure you're going to have a whole heap of people coming after you saying, I'm going to help out now. With that, we'll move on to general business. If there are any last minute ones, we can chuck them up on chat or quiz, Q&A. I note that Corin Pepper asked the question, can tonight's videos be put on the website, please? They seem to freeze a lot when watching via Facebook. Laurie's replied to that and said all meetings are put on the website, usually a few days after the meeting. Sounds like you need a faster internet connection. Story of our lives, isn't it? Laurie, anything you want to point out in relation to that further?
No, I think you've covered it all. It usually goes up on Thursday or Friday. Once I get around, I edit out some of the what I call internal stuff so that it can be shown externally. And yes, all the videos. What I actually do is I don't actually use the Zoom videos. I actually cut in the real videos that I actually have. So the quality you see will be not what comes through Zoom. It will be straight from my PC, and it will be in a proper YouTube video, so the quality will be there. And just to give you the heads up, that's Steve McAdam video. Steve likes to film and do his editing all in 4K. So that's why the quality of that one was really top on. You mightn't have seen the 4K quality, but where I'm sitting looking at the screen, I thought, wow, that's really crystal clear. So.
bloke. And so with that, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us tonight. And to everybody that came together tonight to make this happen, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And on behalf of the committee, I'd like to say thank you again to the people who always make this happen behind the scene, and that's you, Rob, and you, Laurie. And they're the things, these are the things that make it all, this is like a production, we just make it happen. And to all of our panellists tonight who joined in and gave us all a bit of an update of what's happening, fabulous, thank you. And that's it for now. So our next meeting will be on Tuesday, the 20th of April, 2021 at 7:30. And keep an eye out on Weekend Wrap for updates and details as to how, where, when and what. Okay, thank you with all of that. I'm going to say good night and see you out in the tracks. Good night.